few times I would be woken up by these beings that were translucent. I could see through them. I could see the wall or the door behind them. And I would wake up and they would just be watching me. So that never felt ominous. It never was anything that scared me. And it was many years later before I would realize, oh, okay, well, that's not what is quote unquote normal. Not everyone can do that.
Kia ora, welcome back. This is the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. Today I'm chatting with Chenee Fournier. She has had some near-death experiences. She's had some mystical experiences, interactions with angels, past loved ones. Beautiful, beautiful stories coming up. I can feel it already. Chenee, thank you for being here. It's great to have you on Let's Talk Near Death.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. I love all the stories that come through. And like I say, I can feel it already. There's some stories coming through today. Where do we start with your experiences? Where do we start with your journey into who you are today and all these beautiful experiences that you've had?
All the way back in my childhood, I was a very highly sensitive child. I wouldn't have known it back then, the terminology of highly sensitive. I was someone who was always really in tune with energy. So if people were saying things to me and they had a certain look on their face and they were trying to convey a message that really wasn't what they were feeling, I could pick up on the energy beneath that. And at times, that kind of cognitive dissonance didn't quite make sense. Like, why is the person saying this thing, but this is the energy coming from them? So this is all stuff that I've learned in looking back on my life about why that was something that I was able to do. And my mom has various clairs. She has the ability of seeing into spirit. So she has clairvoyance. She also has clairaudience, the ability to smell what's going on in the spirit world. I have both of those clairs, as well as claircognizance and clairsentience, just a clear knowing and a clear feeling, as well as clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So when you grow up with those abilities, but you don't necessarily know that those are abilities or that that's different what other people are experiencing, you kind of feel a little bit like an outsider at times or like an outlier at times. So that was just something that I just grew up just knowing over a course of time that, oh, okay, well, there's something more going on than just what we see on the surface. And probably in my mid to late teens, I just got really involved in learning about various different spiritual traditions, world religions. How are they the same? How do they differ? Just really, really, really seeking, seeking, seeking. Also, when I was a kid, at one time, I remember really startling myself and almost freaking myself out because I started thinking about the concept of eternity. And this was probably elementary school, maybe junior high, but probably elementary school. And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, but that means forever. And forever is a long time. And so you could either be forever happy or forever unhappy. Oh my goodness. And so I really kind of scared myself, as a little child thinking about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, big
Also,
questions.
yeah. And then also, when I was younger, I was able to see into the spirit world. And once again, didn't know that that wasn't what everyone else could do. So few times I would be woken up by these beings that were translucent. I could see through them. I could see the wall or the door behind them. And I would wake up and they would just be watching me. So that never felt ominous. It never was anything that scared me. And it was many years later before I would realize, oh, okay, well, that's not what is quote unquote normal. Not everyone can do that. So I've just always been really tapped into the spirit world. And as I've gotten older throughout life, that beautiful interconnectivity has just become a constant companion. So I don't really have to switch. I don't really have to move between the mundane world and the spirit world. I really believe that they are intertwined. They're just at different octaves of frequency. And I really love that because then I tap into my own intuition daily for guidance. I tap into my angels and spirit guides daily for guidance. I interact with my loved ones who are only in spirit. I do believe very strongly that we are mostly in the spirit world anyway, as what is called a soul. But for me, soul is an acronym that just stands for source of unified love. So it's a stream of energy. So stream, source, space, all that works, right? So it's a stream of unified love flowing to me from what I call source, flowing to me, and then my physical body channels my soul. And then my soul expands beyond my body and creates an energy field around me that is electromagnetic in nature and holds this body in integrity. So it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And when I came upon that discovery or that realization, I just started thinking, oh, okay, well, then wait a minute. Then I can tap into the spirit world just as easily as I can live from the physical realm. And it is important for me to know the difference, because if I'm driving down the road and this beautiful image starts unfolding in front of me, I need to recognize, okay, is that in front of me on the road, or is that
Yeah.
coming to me spiritually? So I really learned how to hone in all of that and communicate, because I also work as a spiritual medium. So I also communicate with beings in spirit for their loved ones here physically. And I always say that first and foremost, I'm serving spirit. But then again, I'm also serving people that are here physically, because we're in both places simultaneously. And that gives me great joy to know this.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You've touched on a point that you grew up like this and you didn't really realize that this wasn't what everybody else was experiencing.
Mhm.
I think this kind of really gets me, because I think about how many people go through life with so many things, not even necessarily spiritual things, just believing that that's normal, that that's what everyone
Right.
else experiences. And it could be anything, the way that we are in our families, the way that we're raised culturally, traditionally, belief systems. But yeah, having what you call the senses, the sentient abilities.
Mhm.
So many of us just go through life and we might not know that we're not experiencing what everybody else is experiencing.
Right.
What was that like for you when you realized that maybe that was a little bit different to what other people experienced?
I think it was a sense of relief, actually, because then things started making more sense to me in this physical, mundane reality. And I thought, oh, okay. So then if I'm actually tapping into a higher frequency of consciousness and bringing information in from there, that's why I'm taking things so sensitively. That's why I'm taking things so seriously. That's why life feels so important to me. And some of the mundane things, you know, sometimes can feel like it was a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time, because it's all things that are, that we need to do in our daily lives.
Mm.
Also, I started to kind of understand, oh, maybe that's why sometimes when I would interact with someone, they might have a specific reaction to me, because they're also tapping in with really heightened senses and heightened awarenesses. And so it kind of, I don't know, it's like when you're learning a foreign language or a second language or what have you, and you finally get it and it finally clicks, and you move from just those mundane conversations to intellectual, deep, mindful, heartful, soulful conversations. Things can make more sense. So I think it was actually, yeah, it was very helpful for me to realize that.
So, Shanae, you've had some of these beautiful experiences. You've talked a lot about connecting with spirit, about having these sensations, all this sentience that come into this. You've had some shared death experiences. This is a topic I love, because when we talk about near-death experiences, a lot of times people talk about the research behind it, the science behind it, how possibly there's an element of the brain shutting down or the body's doing something right before death. But when we have shared death experiences, we're taking somebody who has no physical or clinical reason to be dying, and yet they have this most amazing experience with someone who is dying or has a glimpse into someone's death. What were the experiences like for you? How did they start and what were they like?
They were very expansive, very welcoming, and actually very calming. And so, what I often like to tell people is, when we're in that liminal space where we know a being that we love dearly, it can be a human, it could be a pet, it could be an animal, whatever it is, we're in this very beautiful liminal space where time almost feels like it's standing still. And in a certain level, it is, because in the spirit world, time doesn't exist the way it's like a persistent
Mm.
illusion for us here in the physical realm, right? So, with one of them, my beloved dear sister, whom I love dearly, she had this dog in her life that was she was dealing with I believe it was a bone cancer that her dog had. Still very clear of mind, but the body was giving out. And
Mm.
so my sister and I kept staying in contact with each other. And she said, she was just going to keep watching and just let her dog Frida know when it was her time to go. So one morning I woke up and I just had this clarity because Frida came to me, her dog, still alive here in the physical realm, came to me and let me know that she was going to be going to the infinite realm, right? To this infinite realm of beauty and bliss, just this spirit realm. And the way that she did that was she showed me what I could see as far as the afterlife is concerned. She showed me this beautiful wall of light. She showed me this environment of light. I realize now she was showing me the portal that she was going to go through, but it was immense. Oftentimes when I see portals of energy, they're relatively small and intimate. This was just this immense, beautiful wall of light. And she let me know it's my time to go, and I'm happy. I'm good. It's fine for me to go. It's so beautiful where I get to go, and so don't be sad for me. And she said, but you can't go there with me. And I said, well, in my mind I'm thinking, well, can I go part way? Can I touch this? No, you don't have the right frequency. You can't even come beyond this border right here, this boundary. And I'm a very inquisitive person, so although I'm creative and intuitive, I'm also very analytical. And so I thought, well, let me just see if I can get my finger through it. What will happen if I touch it? Will I be drawn into the portal? Will I actually be able to come into like a waiting area of this beautiful portal of light of the afterlife? Like, what is this? So I reached my hand out, and this was all going on clairvoyantly as well as telepathically. So I reached my hand out into the space in front of me. I got to the boundary of the light, and even though it looked like it should be permeable, it wasn't. It was as though I was touching a glass wall. I could not get my hand into it. I couldn't get a finger into it. It didn't sting or tingle or push me back or anything. It didn't pull me in. It was just there. And I recognized, wow, this teaching about frequencies and octaves, it's true. If you're not of the right frequency and it's not your time to go, you're not going to get pulled into there. You can have different experiences of it. So anyway, a little bit later on, I thanked her dog Frida and just really appreciated that she shared that with me. So not that much later on, the phone rings and I see that it's my sister. But because I don't want to influence my sister's decision, I don't say anything about it yet. So I answer the phone and she said, oh, today's the day. And I said, okay, since you know that today's the day and you've shared that with me, I'm going to share what Frida just showed me. And I told her the whole thing. And I think that, that helps, obviously, when we know that the being that we love know that it's their time to go. It's their time to shed this physical form and now focus 100% back in the spirit world. So that was one of them. Oh, and then also, since the vet was going to be coming to my sister's house to euthanize sweet Frida, and I knew about the time when the vet was going to show up, I asked my sister, could you text me when the vet shows up? And I'll go into meditation and just share some Reiki, just really fill the field, this unitive field of consciousness with love and just participate in this. And so she texted me, and different visions came through for me while the process was taking place. And it was very beautiful. It was very expansive. It's hard for me to even put them into human words, what I was experiencing, but absolutely beautiful. No fear, no pain, no sorrow, no suffering. And oftentimes what I've been shown is that when it is the time of physical death, all of these other beautiful beings in spirit start showing up to
Yeah.
shepherd the being back home, not because they might get lost. I do not believe in any in between realms. Because we're already there in the spirit realm and we're focusing on our physical life. And then when this physical life has come to its completion and our life force is done and we're going to go back home, the octaves shift and we're up at that higher frequency there and we're there. It's here and there, but it's also intertwined and overlapped. And it was really beautiful. And then right about the time when I knew the process was complete, this one beautiful puffy cloud floated across the sky because I was laying outside on the earth, just laying down with my body on the ground, looking up at the sky. And this beautiful puffy cloud floated by that looked like a dog sitting in profile.
I knew
It
you were
was
going to
just,
say it looked like a dog. I just knew. I
I
was like,
love that.
yeah.
I also see you're tapping in clairvoyantly too. So you saw it. Yeah. So that one was super powerful. The second one that I had also had to do with a dog, and this was my dog. And I didn't even know that he was close to the end of his life because as dogs get older, they've got various health issues, but he was still doing well. One day, he jumped off of the couch and then started walking strangely. And I thought, oh, maybe he hurt his knees, maybe he hurt his back. What's going on? So I kind of sat with him and just checked in on him. How you doing? And I thought, maybe we need to take him to the emergency vet. And then I was just kind of looking at him and I could tell, okay, yeah, something's not right here. I don't know what this is, but it's not right. I still had no clue that within 6 hours, he was going to be back in the spirit realm fully and
Oh.
completely, no longer here physically. So we take him to the ER. And unfortunately, they can't do surgery that particular night because it was already the emergency hours. There wasn't a surgeon on staff, and my sweet little dog had already eaten his dinner. So, you can't do surgery in those kind of
Yeah.
situations. So they were at least able to do an ultrasound. And they came back and they said, oh my goodness, we think it might be time to have the end of life conversation. And I said, what? I was
Mm.
absolutely shocked. And I said, what do you mean end of life conversation? And what had happened was something was going on with him internally that we did not know about. Most likely, cancerous masses were in there, and one of the masses had grown large enough to cause something to burst inside of his body. And so his body was filling with fluids. And so they did everything they could, to keep him comfortable for as long as they could. And I know he's present right now because he's giving me this swirly feeling that I get when spirit is flowing through me.
Oh, wow.
And so, I say, okay, well, what are my options? And they said, well, you can leave him in the clinic overnight, and we've already, bolstered fluids into him, but we might have to do things like do blood transfusions and just kind of do these heroic measures just to keep him alive until the morning time when the surgeon can come in and can look and even see, does this even seem possible that we can do
Mm.
anything for him for surgery? He was already 13, and in the veterinary world, he was a medium to large size dogs. That's considered old.
Mm.
And so I said, okay, well, is it cruel for me to take him home and not have him euthanized and just think about it throughout the night and let him tell me what he wants? And they said, no, not at all. He shouldn't be feeling any pain right now because he's got a lot of medicines on board in his system. I said, okay, then I'm going to take him home and then I'll bring him back if it really seems like he's crashing because I don't want him to suffer. So I bring him home. And very quickly, I just got this sense, oh, okay, you know what? His life force is waning. And I didn't want to leave him in the clinic because he could have had a stroke. All these various things could have gone wrong. And I thought, no, no, I'm not going to do that to him. So that's why I brought him home. Then I took him back to the clinic just to get confirmation from the vet that what I was seeing and what I thought I was seeing is what was happening. And so she said, yeah, she confirmed, yes, he is crashing. He's not going to survive for that much longer. And
Mm.
so before she even, kind of jumping ahead of myself, before she even came back into the room, we were set up in a treatment room again, and I opened up a healing oasis. So I held in my heart the intention to create a whole brand new field of energy, to be ensconced in that energy with my sweet dog Lovey, and for him to let me know what he wants, and if at all, to be able to be cured and healed, to be cured and healed. While I was in the process of doing that, without my doing this at all, a vertical portal opened up on my left hand side. It was golden, it kind of oscillated between golden light and white light. It was iridescent, it was vibrant, it was radiant, and it was obvious. And so I stopped what I was doing to witness what was going on. And this beautiful being appeared through this portal of light, and it was a dog that I had previously shared my life with, which was my current dog, Lovey. It was his friend too when she was still here physically, and her name was Astrid. So I believe that our dogs are angels, some of them, not all of them, but
Mm.
those
Mm.
beautiful pets that we share our lives with, dogs, cats, rabbits, whatever they are, when they really change us for the better and they really up level us, that lets me know they are angels that agreed to come into physical form so that we could have them in our lives and we could touch them, we could pet them, we could exchange unconditional love with them, we could look into their eyes and see source by looking into their eyes, and to
Mm.
know that they're seeing source in us when they look at us. So Astrid and Lovey were both like that for me, both just definitely some angels for me, my angels. Now, I also believe that when we get to the infinite realm of pure love and bliss, we're no longer in a form if we don't want to be. So I don't believe that we have dogs or pets in heaven. We don't have hierarchy like that. But when we first go to make our transition, or when we want to interact with these beings in spirit, they will remind us of their presence by showing themselves to us in their familiar forms. So even though Astrid had already been in the Everlife for many years at this point, she came through that portal in a way that I would recognize her. And she did that because she knew that years after this was happening, had happened, I would question myself and think, oh my goodness, was it really his time to go? Should I have pulled out all the stops and had blood transfusions done and tried my hardest to keep him alive overnight just to see if the surgeon could have saved him? But luckily, the vet clarified after looking at the scan and having someone else look at the scan too. She said, no, he's got masses all over internally. So we're pretty sure that even if he made it to surgery and we opened him up, we'd find there's no use to try to do anything because there were just too many masses internally. And that even if we removed them all and closed him up and he had a little bit longer, it wouldn't have been a good quality of life, most likely. And if it was cancer, they would have come back. But you know, the human mind, even though I can tap into the spirit world easily and I see both in conjunction consistently with each other, I have the analytical human mind that goes, yeah, but did you make the right decision? Every time I find myself just starting to get pulled that way, I remember, oh, but remember, Astrid showed up through a portal of her own making. I didn't open that portal, she did. And she, in that moment, blended and merged the two realms, the physical and the spiritual. And she showed up in a way that let me know I'm here to shepherd my sweet Lovey back home, my buddy Lovey. I'm here to shepherd him back home. And I call it home because it's where we all come from and where I believe we all will end up after our physical life is done. But so many times that has brought me so much comfort. So when the vet did come back in and listen to his heart and checked his vitals, she said, oh yeah, he's crashing. Then that gave me the confidence to say, okay, then let's go ahead and euthanize because that's what's in his best interest. So I was able to place my hands on my sweet Lovey, let Reiki, just life force energy, flow through and share it with him, press my forehead to him, and just was like, okay, and just enveloped him in love and just gave him permission, even though these beautiful beings don't need permission because they know what to do. You know, they're just shifting elevation and consciousness. But I just said, you know, thank you so much. I don't know the exact words, but the feeling was, thank you so much for being my sweetheart. And thank you so much for letting me know you're still going to be with me, because all of my dogs, since they are my angels, they're still here with me. So, you know, she did the process and the euthanization was done. And then that portal closed up. The energy in the room changed. The energy got cooler when that portal closed, because I realized that so much energy comes in from that beautiful non-physical spirit realm that it changes the energy. I get hot flashes when I'm doing the work with my clients that I do. If I'm doing meditations and speaking it, then I'm recording it for others. I get hot, I get buzzy sensations, I get just feelings. And so I was in such a heightened state of awareness through this whole process that I didn't even recognize how hot the room had gotten. And I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but I did. And then when the portal closed up, the room got cool, noticeably cool. And then I think probably my physical apparatus, my physical body reacclimated to now, okay, we're back in the mundane physical world of focus. And then I brought his little body back home because I believe in sitting with the body for a while and just, you know, giving thanks. Thank you for being this beautiful vehicle and vessel for the soul to animate while it's here. Thank you for that. And then I went ahead and buried him. And that night, when I was sitting at the grave, of course, crying, and I asked him, I know that you're still going to be with me. So what will be our signature sign? What will be your sign? What will you make sure that I see and hear as a reminder that you're here with me? And I had never heard owls in my backyard before. And I heard a hoot sound of an owl, just this beautiful little hooting sound. And so I smiled and I said, oh, Lovey, is it going to be owls? And then right on cue, the owl hooted again. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And then I won't keep going on because the story would get longer and longer, but I have had so many interactions with owls since then. And even today, I almost wore a different necklace than this. And I heard very clearly, wear the owl necklace. And so I'm wearing the owl
Oh,
necklace. But when you open yourself to the grandioseness of life and the fact that these realms merge and blend consistently, life is magical, life is
yeah,
mystical, and life
yeah.
is beautiful. And even though I still miss the physical presences of all of my loved ones who are no longer here physically, they're here with me in spirit. I communicate with them. They bring signs and symbols my way. They have a fantastic sense of humor. They mess with
Mhm.
electronics. They mess with GPS. I mean, they are
Mm.
just the most wonderful beings to get to interact with. And those two experiences changed me just viscerally, and I was already wide open spiritually. But every single time these kinds of experiences happen, I laugh, I cry, I feel great joy. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, I get to do this in the world. I get to be one of the many countless beings in this planet that merge the physical and the spiritual, and that can really assure people life continues after this. Life is not the illusion, death is the illusion. And once we're no
Oh,
longer
that
here
is.
physically and we're in, the everlife, the afterlife, heaven, there's so many different words for it, but it's beautiful. And there's just nothing to fear and nothing to be worried about. And I love that message because I believe a lot of the hurtful, harmful, unawakened behaviors that take place in this earth, in this realm, ultimately is underlined by the fact that people are afraid of death. And
Mm,
that, and in
mm.
fact, I forget who the death researcher was, but he talked about this thing called terror management philosophy or something like that. And
Mm.
when you're working with subjects or working with people, and I guess you can subliminally flash the word death in front of them, and you don't prepare them for that, and it happens so fast that they don't know it, they're more likely to say something that is hurtful or behave in a way that's very unawakened or in sometimes outright violent. Meanwhile, if you tell people, you talk to them about death and you tell them that it's just a portal to something even more beautiful and even more wonderful and eternal, and you talk to them about it and you help assuage any fear about it, they're more likely to do an act of kindness. They're more likely to give to others, to be open and expansive. So that's why I really honestly think that whether it's a mediumship reading or an angel and spirit guide reading or any of the various things that I and others that do the work I do is that that's the ultimate form of, or that's one of the ultimate forms of energy healing. Because if you can help people be less afraid of death and to know that they are going to continue beyond this realm and they will see their loved ones again, even if they don't have the abilities to clairvoyantly see them or clairaudiently hear them while they're still here physically in their physical form, once they themselves make their transition, they will see their loved ones again. And that is completely, I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Mm.
And that takes away that fear. And then that allows people to behave in a way that is much more inclusive and loving. Because when people act in hateful ways because they're afraid of death, they're not doing it on purpose. They're doing it, I think, subconsciously, subliminally, and they might not even know what's driving that behavior. So for me, if I can help alleviate people's fear of death and let them see that what comes next is beautiful, and yes, they're going to see all of their loved ones again, I believe that that actually can help a lot of physical ailments that can manifest in the
Yeah,
human form or the dog form or the cat form.
yeah,
And so I'm so grateful that I get to do this work. And I'm so grateful that I get to have conversations like we're having right now because I'm getting to
yeah.
get this message out there.
And I love it because you have just basically spoken so many of the things that I'm passionate about. I do believe we need to get the conversation of death to be out there
Yeah.
more, to be bigger. I do believe that it impacts our physical health, physical state of well-being. So much of this resonates with me. I'm stuck on the animals. Now, I love animals. Yeah, don't know, I was really feeling for your loss when you were talking
Oh,
about them.
thank you.
Even my little cat, well, he's not that little, but my beautiful little boy, he was sitting on my chair. He was nearly on the podcast today. So I came
Ah,
into my office and he's not normally in here. He'd been up on the bed. I've got a bed in here for when guests stay. And he'd found a blanket and snuggled into there. And then I went out, grabbed a drink, came back down, and he's right by the chair. And I thought, oh, are you going to jump up on my knee? Are you going to be on the podcast today? And I
oh,
just looked at him
fantastic.
and I looked him
Yes.
in the eyes and I just said, oh, thank you. You make my life so much better. You
Hmm.
give so much to our family just by being here, just by being
Right.
alive, just by trying to steal my chair when I need to do something, you know. And he's just gorgeous. And
Yes.
thinking about what a gift he is,
Hmm.
I have never ever considered before you spoke today about animals having I call it a welcoming party when you're about to die, because
Hmm.
we hear a lot, and I've done a lot of research into end of life experiences and deathbed visions where people see past loved ones,
Right.
or they have experiences with people who maybe they didn't live with, but they just know on some spirit connection level coming before they die. It's now quite well recognized within hospice, within hospitals, that people have deathbed visions of past loved ones. Sometimes I've heard of animals coming,
Hmm.
but I have never considered that my cat or my dog might have their own welcoming party when
Yes.
they die.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't they?
Exactly.
So yeah, exactly. So thank you. You have taken my brain, and
Oh,
it's quite hard to do because I've thought about a lot of stuff. You've taken it somewhere completely new today, and I
oh,
love
good.
that. Um, that led me on very quickly to going down a path as I was listening to you. Do animals have a concept of death? What do you
I
think?
think I think that they do at a soul level because I believe that they're tapped into. So I believe that there's different levels of consciousness. We
Mm,
have, and I believe that everything is conscious. I love that philosophy is of animism, that everything has God energy, source energy, creator
yeah.
energy, everything, every molecule of water, every grain of sand, every rock, every tree, person, being, everything has personhood. And I loved that when I heard that and I learned that. So I do believe that what I've been shown, and I am going to answer the question, but what I've been shown very clearly is that this beautiful earth is in a sort of chrysalis itself. And it is the vehicle and vessel within which life takes place. And that as humans do our spiritual evolution and work much more to becoming beings of light, at some point, when we move from matter to being pure beings of just light and spirit and having whatever form we wish to take, but not needing to eat, therefore, nothing needs to die. There's no predator nor prey. When we awaken like that and we step into that new earth and step into that new way of being, like a spiritual human, where we're really merged and blended together, that will allow the planet Earth itself to come out of its chrysalis and to show itself as the being of light that it is, as this beautiful sentient being of light that will still be this beautiful playground for soul and spirit and source to come and play and have experiences and live a life. But at that point, even the animals will be free from having to be in a physical form of predator and prey. Of course, animals have to eat each other to keep all of that in balance, and animals are necessary for the earth and all that beautiful stuff. But I believe that the animals, domestic as well as wild, they do what's called grid work on the planet. They really anchor the light into the planet and they anchor source into the planet in the way that they're here to do. And then once we, as the human species, I believe, evolve into a more spirit based species and don't need a physical form anymore that needs to be fed and taken care of, the earth can become a being of light because we won't need to grow things on the earth anymore or build or plant things on the earth. And then the animals won't need to do their grid work and won't need to do the work the way that they do on this physical plane and this physical planet. They will evolve and show themselves as the beings of light that they are. still form, still being able to interact with each other, but it'll be more like we come here because we want to and we leave when we're ready. There's no birth and death and all of that process. So I believe that, and what I've been shown is that with different striations and levels of consciousness. So you have a slower frequency of consciousness that might be the rocks and the trees, still intelligent, still sentient, but a slower frequency. Then I do believe that there's going to be the animal frequency and the animal soul. And then above that would be the human animal frequency, because we're animals as well. And so the human frequency. And then I think above that would be an angelic frequency. And above that would be source creator, kind of God energy. And that all of it is in the process of evolving. So there is a philosophy called process theology, that even that which created everything, if you believe in a God, if you believe in a creator or a source, even that is evolving and expanding. And as everything in the created world evolves and expands, that is fed into the collective consciousness, and it's pulled up into all the layers of consciousness. And then even source evolves. And then when source evolves, what we anchor down into this planet is an evolved source energy. And so I believe that the animals participate in all of this as well. So even though they can be aware of death is coming, they don't worry about it the way that humans do. We have that self-reflective ability through our physical conscious brain to think about death, to try to understand death, to grapple with death. And then hopefully at a certain point to become comfortable with death, because we know it's just a doorway into something grander and even more vast and beautiful and eternal and timeless compared to this reality here. So I do believe that animals, their soul, their own source of unified love, their own stream of unified love. I should correct myself, because I believe we all come from the same source. But the animals will have their own stream of unified love flowing directly from the heart of source and into that beautiful physical animal form. So the larger part of each one of us, including the animals that currently resides in the spirit world, in that infinite realm of beauty and bliss, the soul does know, the spirit does know when it's getting close to time for us to go back home. Sometimes people, that's why they'll have visions, even though they don't even know they're getting close to death. Their loved ones will start showing up for them. And even if they never consider themselves clairvoyant, they're like, oh, I just saw
Yeah.
grandpa, or I just saw my auntie, or whoever. So I think the same thing happens for dogs and cats and birds and all the other, but they don't worry about it. They don't fret about it. And they also know that they're going to still be right here with us, just at a different frequency. So I always tell people who I work with or interact with, your loved ones don't miss you because they're right there with you. And yes,
Yeah.
I miss the physical presence of my loved
Yeah.
ones, but they are still right here with me. It's a different language that I have to learn now to communicate with them. It's a different frequency that I tap into. But I do admit, I miss hugging my dogs. I miss petting
Mm.
their fur. I miss looking into their physical eyes. But what I get, and I'm getting that swirly feeling again, what I get in return of letting go of that sadness and sorrow is, yeah, but I still hear their clicking of their nails on the hardwood floors. I do still have a dog, but even when he's
Oh,
in bed with me, I hear the clicking of their nails on the
really?
floor. I
Oh,
feel a depression on my bed, and I'm like, oh, okay, which one of you is here with me? And then they drop into my consciousness, which one it is. And I love that. And now they're with me everywhere I go. I no
yeah.
longer leave them at home to go somewhere because they're just with
They're
me.
just there. Yeah. I love that. That would probably freak me out, I think, if I heard the little claws going along the floor. Oh,
I
yeah, I
think
love all the stuff.
you'd get used to it. I think you would get used to it,
Yeah,
because right at first you
probably.
might go, "Oh, who's that?" And then you'd go, "Hey," and you'd call their name and you would interact with them.
Yeah, exactly. I think at the beginning I would just freak out. I love all this stuff, but I'm keeping it real. This is a physical world, and I would freak out. It's so interesting. You've said a couple of comments actually. The layers. So you talked about the rocks and the trees and the branches and how they're at a different frequency, a different consciousness to maybe the animals and the humans. And is it that we're progressing through layers? Do we start at rock consciousness and then another lifetime go to the next thing and next thing until we're an animal? We have that experience, and then maybe it's a human. Then you talked about angels. Are we going through different levels? Is that the purpose of the different levels?
That's not what I've been shown. So I can't say that that doesn't happen, but it's not what I've been shown. In fact, what I've been shown is that not everyone even chooses reincarnation.
Yeah, okay.
Source is just this beautiful, vast source of life force energy, creative, beautiful, creates worlds, keeps them spinning. And I'm trying to use these words without any kind of dogmatic belief system because I don't
Mm,
have dogmatic belief systems. I'm just speaking about what I've been shown and what I've seen. But what I've been shown is that when when two beings procreate, whether they're humans or non-human animals, reproduction takes place, and now a new life form is forming. And so with that new life form, every life form needs a soul or a spirit, as far as what I believe and have been shown. And so sometimes there's going to be a soul or a spirit in the spirit world who's like, oh, hey, yeah, you know what? I'd like to have another go around for whatever reason. And so they agree to be the soul, the spirit that's going to inhabit and enliven and be channeled through that physical form. So I don't believe that it's this hierarchical thing of, well, you would be this first and then you would go up to that. Gosh, there might be a human who'd be like, wow, I'd like to know what it would be like to be an eagle. So then maybe they come
yeah.
back as an eagle. Or, so there isn't like, I don't believe that you earn your way up through the stratifications of consciousness. I believe that they're just there for us to tap into. I also
Right.
believe that if it's going to be a really hard life, and source can see that it's going to be a really hard life, that source cleaves off a whole brand new bit of itself to create a whole brand new soul, a whole brand new spirit, and that's what will animate that body. So I do not believe that we choose our hardships. I don't believe that we
Okay.
choose, and I also don't believe in negative karma or positive karma or original sin. So I don't believe that we come here with marks against us, or so to say. I believe that when we come here brand new. We come here out of love. We come here because there's a new life form that's going to be born, and it needs a soul, it needs a spirit. And so out of love, we do that. It might be out of love for the beings that are procreating as a mom and dad, or two moms or two dads, or what have you, and they're procreating, and we hear this call to love, like, oh, I think it's a frequency that we hear. I think it's actually a harmony that we hear, and if we resonate with it, we answer that call, and then we're going to have a lifetime again. The reason why I don't believe that we come here with either negative or positive karma is because that would be an eternal sort of struggle to try to get rid of all negative karma. And I just don't think that's
Mm,
possible. And I think that that's very similar to the concept of original sin, which would mean, oh, well, you're having these hardships because of something you did terrible in a past lifetime. Or, oh, you're having these hardships because you chose them. I've never had anyone in spirit tell me that. And
mm,
in fact, what I've been shown instead, that everything we experience goes into that collective consciousness. And some people call that the Akashic records. Some people call it
yeah.
like the catalog of human behavior, what have you. Anytime one single soul experiences something and evolves, it trickles into us all, and everything evolves. And that lesson doesn't need to be learned again. And we've been here for hundreds of thousands of years in this particular iteration of the human race. And so we don't need to keep relearning the same lessons over and over. What one of us has learned, we've all benefited from. What has invited one of us to grow, we've all grown because of. Luckily, I don't think it works in the opposite direction. If someone comes through this lifetime and has a really terrible existence here, and it's really filled with suffering, it doesn't pull the collective consciousness down. Instead, it invokes and invites love to surround that person and that being who's having a really terrible life or a terrible existence. So so I don't believe that a human would then ever go into like rock consciousness or tree consciousness, because I do believe that it's a different layer of consciousness. And that is something where, like, I don't think the trees or the rocks or the particles of water need to learn anything or need to experience anything. They're here as a gift to the human race and to the animals,
Mm,
because everything is necessary that's in the natural world. So, yeah, I don't believe that we really have to earn anything. We don't come back multiple lifetimes to finally earn our space or our place in heaven or the afterlife. I just believe that some people do choose to come back. Many don't choose to come back. What I foresee for my future when I'm no longer here physically, I would love to get to be on a team of other spirits that are helping mediums, that are helping angels and spirit
Mm.
guides do their work, that are helping humanity find answers to things that then help the evolution of the species. One of the things that I do think we do as a human race that's very unconscionable, I think is the word, is animal testing. And so I would love, hopefully that isn't even around by the time that I make my transition. But if it is, I will work my hardest with joy to get rid of that process and what goes
Mm.
on. So I believe that whether you're a scientist that makes your way and you're now fully in the afterlife and you choose to stay there, or you're a doctor or a nurse or any other thing, you can stay in the spirit world and still be of assistance here on earth by transmitting information and knowledge from that higher place of consciousness to the slower frequency of the human consciousness. And I do believe that what we're doing right now, and I feel like I'm seeing this ramp up with greater frequency and speed, is the human consciousness level is being drawn up into the higher frequencies of spirit and of angels and of source. And then what that does is it helps us magnetize and draw down into this realm those higher frequencies, which will then help us evolve and truly blend and merge heaven and earth to bring forth that new earth that so many of us talk about.
Mm. I love that you're challenging my thoughts because I've I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I've had a lot of guests on the show who talk about how we come here and we bring generational trauma or we bring stuff from past lives into this lifetime. And you look at stories of this where maybe somebody got, I don't know, they got shot and they have a
Mm-hmm.
scar from a previous
Right.
life where they were shot. Now, I know we can't prove this physically, but when people have memories or we do past life regression or things like this, and I've been taught so many times or told so many times that we don't come here with a clean slate, that we have things to juggle and that we bring things from past lifetimes. I find it so refreshing that you're saying the opposite because we don't know. We cannot prove anything. And I just think it's really, really cool that we can have such different ideas and
Mm-hmm.
guests can have such different theories on how it all works. I
Right.
think if I come back, I do want to come back as a cat because I feel like that would be a nice lifetime, somewhere with a sunny window and
Mm-hmm.
nice food and maybe some kids to pet me all day. I feel like that would be a really great life. I wonder how much we can choose because where I was going with the consciousness levels was, is it a system? Do we go up through them or can you be someone's spiritual team, an angelic team, and then be a rock and then be a cat and then be a human? Can you bounce around to have different
Right.
experiences?
Right.
And I'm also curious to know your thoughts on how much can we choose? Do we choose to come here? But I think you said at one point we don't choose particular traumas. We don't choose
Right.
our hardships.
Right. Because what I've been shown too, and this was something that was shown to me somewhat recently, and I thought, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. Because what I have been seeing for a while is what a lot of people talk about, that as we are making our transition and we're letting go of this physical form and this physical life, we're going to go through what's called a life review. And a lot of teachers talk about this.
Mm.
But I think where I differ a little bit is it's not the soul that needs the life review. And it's not even the spirit that needs the life review. It's the human spirit. It's the human spirit that has gone through this physical life. And because we are built up on an animal infrastructure, we have animal behaviors, you know? And so oftentimes when people can do something and go, oh my gosh, that was so inhumane. Where did that come from? I think it came from that lizard brain, you know, that limbic system that is eat or be eaten, fight or flight, right? It did not come from soul. It did not come from spirit. It did not come from source. It came from us functioning from what I call the unawakened ego. So I do believe that there's the unawakened little false sense of self. And when you can get the awakened ego on board, then the awakened ego is the ego in service to spirit. So when you're going through that life review, the soul is right there with you, you know, bolstering you up. The divine spirit is right there with you, bolstering you up because they both experience this life with this human form. But it's the human spirit and the human psyche, as they say, that's going to go through that life review. During the process of the life review, what I've been shown very clearly, everything is healed. Everything is forgiven. Everything is understood. If you need to forgive someone of something, it's forgiven. If you need to be forgiven, it's forgiven at the soul to soul level. Therefore, there is no ancestral healing that needs to take place. There's no ancestral trauma that needs to carry forward, metaphysically speaking. It doesn't need to trickle down into the physical. It's been healed and cured and mended and made right at the moment of that life review. And then if you choose, and I know that you say you might want to come back as a cat, but when you get to the spirit world, you can have that experience without coming back here as a physical cat.
Oh, wow.
You can
Yeah.
have that experience because if you think about it, out of the household pets, cats probably have a little bit more autonomy and agency, unless you're a farm dog and you live on a farm and you are outdoors a lot and you can come and go and be indoors and outdoors. But if you think about it, you might not really want to ask to be a household pet because they don't have a lot of autonomy. They eat when we feed them. They play when we play with them. They go for walks or go outside when we let them. And so when you get to the beautiful infinite realm, whatever experience you want to have, you can have it, but you have it through thought. You have it through just tapping into that level of consciousness. So I've
Oh,
heard the stories
man.
that you're talking about, and yes, someone will have been shot somewhere. Then when this child is born, they've got a birthmark there.
Yeah,
And then when
yeah.
they start having memories. So I do believe that it might be possible that certain people are direct reincarnations, and maybe that person wanted to come back around and have a different life. They're not here to pay off negative karma because there is none. You come in with a clean slate. You're
Mm.
not coming in with a blotch on your record because of original sin. There is no sin. There's just original blessing. There's original bliss. And so if someone chooses to come back here, it might just be like, oh, hey, I didn't get to have kids this time around. I wanted to have kids. They might choose to come back, or they might think, oh, well, you know what? I can have this experience in the spirit realm. I don't have to go back if I don't want to. And so I do believe that, yes, we can choose whether or not we come back. But I also believe because we're responding to a call of love, and I know not every bit of life is procreated through love. I get that. And
Mm.
so then you might think, oh, okay, well, it might not be the call to love between these two beings that's calling me back, but every being, every body needs a soul. And so even agreeing to go be that source of unified love, that stream of unified love for that body, that's an act of love. It really is. And so I believe, but I also believe that even if for some reason nobody ever procreated again, and then the human race slowly started dwindling, well, consciousness would just reorganize itself and find something different to express through and something different to be, or it would just stay in the spirit world. So I don't actually see this as this point A to point Z. It can be spiral, it can be wavy, it can be whatever you want it to be. But I do believe that when people come back here and experience grave hardships and it's really, really a hard life for them, no, they didn't choose that. But instead, when they said, okay, I'll go back and embody this beautiful body because everybody needs a soul and a spirit, they were told, well, there might be hardships there because life is filled with hardships. And that might be the case. And that beautiful being was like, that's okay. I'll go ahead and take the chance. But no, I don't believe that they chose to come back in here and have the grave hardships that so many people go through. And if you think about it, if all these lessons have already been learned and these are just different reiterations of lessons, it no longer resonates with me anymore that this is called the Earth School. Because if it's an Earth School, we've been here for over 200 to 300,000 years in this current iteration, right?
Yeah.
So consciousness and source and soul is infinitely intelligent. It doesn't need to learn the same thing over and over and over again. So when all of that just kind of dropped into me as a download and beings in spirit kind of took over and started being my mentors, I realized, oh, okay, so that's why so many of these different philosophies never quite resonated with me. They didn't feel
Yeah.
like a truth that resonated with me. That's not to mean to say that if that's somebody else's truth, that's not their truth. It is their truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to find what resonated with me. And then I realized, oh, okay. So then I've already set the stage. I've already let it be known to my soul, my spirit guides, my angels. This is going to be my last physical go around. And I'm good with that. Because then what that lets me do is it lets me recognize every single day could be my last day. And so
Mm.
enjoy the purple flowers that I see outside my window. Enjoy petting that cat that's walking on the street and coming to say hello to me and my dog.
Yeah.
Enjoy what I'm enjoying because it's my last go around and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be wonderful. And then when I completely shift my focus away from this physical form and shift it 100% back to the spirit world and back to the spirit realm, which I call home, it's going to be so incredibly beautiful that I'm not going to even miss the things that some people think, well, won't I miss XYZ? It's like,
Mm.
I don't think so. Our human brain tells us that. But
Mm.
what comes beyond this is so vast and so beautiful and so intertwined that once you get there, I wouldn't be surprised if there are plenty of souls and spirits that go, no, I'm not going to go around for another physical go around. This is too
Yeah.
beautiful here.
Yeah. So I ask this question a lot. I ask, why do we keep coming back? Because I do believe we keep coming back. I do believe in
Okay.
reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what you said there. Everyone's truth is their truth. I love how, like I said, your outlook and your perspective is very, very different from a lot of people. Not saying that it's unique or anything like that, but it's okay for us to question things. It's okay for us to think differently. We don't all have to come to one conclusion about life
Right.
and the way it all works. So I love that. Why do you think we come here? Because why would we, if this afterlife, which I believe is
Yeah.
so, so incredible and
Mm-hmm.
so amazing because I've had glimpses of it, well, I believe I have, why on earth would we come back here? What is our purpose for being here? Why would we choose to keep coming back?
Well, I think it comes back to what came through earlier, which is it's just a response to the call of love. And
Why do we
so
need that though?
well, because until the physical reality of Earth no longer exists, there is going to be reproduction of animals, of people, right? Procreation. So every single time a new body form is co-created, that needs a soul, it needs a spirit. And so I don't believe that every single one of us is reincarnated because, like I said, the part of me that is my soul and my spirit, I don't plan on reincarnating. I plan on staying in the physical realm.
Mm,
Well, if 99% of soul, of spirit, what have you, decided, nope, we're not going to come back, well, that's okay. Source would just cleave off new parts of itself to create new spirit, new soul, new essence, the true
mm,
self to inhabit the bodies. So really, to take it out of the metaphysical and into the physical, reproduction happens, new bodies are formed, new bodies need souls and spirits. And so that to me really simplifies it. It's very, very logical of until the human race either quits being able to reproduce or evolves out of the physical form with reproduction, then soul and spirit will keep coming back here because it needs to. You can't have, as far as I know and have been shown, you can't have physical forms without soul and spirit. And you wouldn't want that anyway. And so it's just the process of, I do think that and it's happening faster, I believe, we are working our way out of the physical based, carbon based life forms into a spirit based life form. But until that happens, there's going to be continuous reproduction in all of the species. And then that needs a soul, that needs a spirit. And for those beings who do want to reincarnate, well, that draws them to this realm. And for those of us who know that we're not going to reincarnate again, well, that's okay because there's a limitless supply of soul, of source, of spirit. And so that for me would be the answer. But I do love what you said. Everyone's going to have their own answer. And in
mm,
fact, one of the times when I answer that question on a podcast, I just told the podcaster, well, it's a great mystery. And instead of trying to tell people what I think, I would rather each person, answer that question for themselves. But then I just heard very clearly after the podcast was over, but it's okay to share what you believe because maybe someone's going to hear what you think and have been shown, and that's going to really resonate with them because all the other stories didn't resonate with me. And then when my story bubbled up from within me, and then beings in spirit were like, yeah, 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 that's what makes sense for you, then it gave me so much more joy in life and a lot more autonomy and sovereignty. Because if you believe that reincarnation happens and you have no choice, there's no sovereignty there. And there's a lot of fear. And when I work with clients, there's a lot of fear. And when I let them know, well, you do know, don't you? You don't have to reincarnate. They're like, what? So if you believe in reincarnation, they're like, what? I don't have to? No. Even the Buddha spoke about that. He talked about rebirth as opposed to reincarnation. And for him, reincarnation would take a soul, a self that continues through all these various lifetimes. Well, his belief, and what my understanding of it is he talked about rebirth. And at any moment you step off of the wheel of samsara, as he called it, that life, death, birth, death, and a lot of suffering in this realm, you can just say, oh, that's it, I'm done. And I want to become enlightened, I want to become awakened, and I don't want to come back to this physical realm. And you can attain nirvana. Some schools of thought in Buddhism teach you that takes so many lifetimes. Well, when you really distill down the teaching of the Buddha, from my understanding of it, no, you can happen in the blink of an eye. You can just have this awakening and recognize, oh, I don't have to reincarnate if I don't want to. And if you do want to, then, like I said, you're answering a call to love. But I don't believe that you're choosing your parents. I don't believe you're choosing your hardships. And I don't believe you're coming here to pay off negative debt and to try to, balance things again. I just don't believe that it's that kind of a reality. That's the way our brains understand it, because we understand things through a lens of physics. But physics does not apply to the spirit realm in a way that I could even potentially begin to understand or convey in English, spoken language.
Roger that.
That is above my pay grade, as they say.
Wow, there's so much in this conversation. Even talking about how we don't have to come back, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this. You have touched on so many things, and I'm really grateful for it. As a listener, perhaps your mind is a bit blown too. That's okay. So we can take our time to work out what we think. We could have an experience without having to come back. I could go and be a cat without having to have a lifetime of it. I'm stuck on that because I'm just wondering how that's going to work. Maybe that's like a dream phase that we go through, because I really want to know what it's like to be a cat. Maybe I've been a cat for 10 lifetimes already. Who knows?
Exactly.
Chenee, you have blown my mind. So much to think about. I am so grateful that you've come to share all of your thoughts and your experiences, and even chatting through the losses of your own dogs and own pets. And Chenee Fournier, thank you so much.
You are welcome. It's been my pleasure. And thank you so much for holding this space so beautifully and asking such meaningful questions.